Okay, in this video I'm going to do a real quick review of the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B. I just got this in this week. So this improves over the Raspberry Pi 2. It has a 64-bit processor as opposed to a 32-bit processor. It has built-in wireless LAN and Bluetooth. And so the SD cards I usually get like a 32 gigabyte SDHC card. For this one, I've got a faster one. Okay, so this 32-bit one does up to 80 megabytes per second speed. This is also a 32 gigabyte SD card, micro SD card, and it's SDHC, and it has up to 95 megabytes per second. And I also picked up this from Amazon. So this is a 200 gigabyte SD card, so it's a lot larger. They had like a one-day sale on Amazon. It was like $60. Still pretty expensive. You can get a 1 terabyte external USB drive for this price, but I may for this video I'm probably going to use this faster one just to see how fast the user interface is. And it's relative. I'm not going to do like benchmarks or anything like that. I just want to see how fast it is. I haven't run it yet, but then I'll probably end up putting this larger disc, because I think I might use this as like a security camera. Hook up a camera to it, and then 200 gigabytes will be enough space to save video. Okay, so I haven't opened this yet. So I got this from Element 14. And yeah. Okay, so it has the same form factor as the Raspberry Pi 2. I mean, they're going to look really similar, probably identical. Like I said, this one's going to be faster. There was a lot bigger jump going from like the Raspberry Pi B Plus to the Raspberry Pi 2. I noticed, especially if you're running X window, running the GUI interface, it was a lot faster. So this one should be even faster still. So I'm gonna load up Raspbian operating system. There is no 64-bit Raspbian. In fact, I don't know if there's any 64-bit operating systems yet for the Raspberry Pi. I did read this past week that the Raspbian developers were going to look and see what the level of effort is to create a 64-bit version. I think they will. I hope they will. Once they do that, should run even faster. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and load up the operating system and then plug it in.
Okay, so I've booted up the Raspberry Pi 3. I installed the latest version of Raspbian, and this is the Jessie version. This is the first time I've run Jessie. All the others have been Wheezy, but it's pretty much the same. There are a few differences. Also, one thing, I am running this program called Simple Screen Recorder, so that's how I record on the screen. So that's going to be a little bit of overhead, and so what you see on my screen is going to be slowed down maybe just a little because this is running. But anyway, this is a really fast operating system compared to the original Raspberry Pi. I can tell a little difference between the Raspberry Pi 3 and the Raspberry Pi 2. Not a whole lot, but so like the web browser, I mean, it's pretty responsive. I remember the original like Raspberry Pi A. If you got into the GUI and you started opening up like multiple tabs, things just got really bogged down really fast. So as you can see, this is pretty fast, relatively speaking. Obviously on a brand new Windows or Mac laptop or something, you know, this is going to be a little slower than that, but it's still very usable. Back in the Raspberry Pi A and even in the B Plus, I rarely got into the graphical user interface just because it just seemed like it was too slow. Since Raspberry Pi 2, now 3, this is very usable. Okay, so the browser works fine, fast. I noticed with Jessie they install LibreOffice by default, so we'll open up one of these apps, their spreadsheet. I'm not really an expert at LibreOffice, but just kind of show you just kind of fool around with this. I mean, this is pretty responsive. Okay, and then I think we can do like a plot or something. Yeah, I mean that's pretty fast. I definitely have no complaints with this. Okay. I mean, this is just like using a normal operating system, which wasn't really the case before the Raspberry Pi 2 in the graphical user interface mode. What else? So, oh yeah, I noticed with Jessie 2, they give you a couple of Java IDEs, and I installed Eclipse. Eclipse, to me, is kind of a resource hog. Even on like a MacBook Pro, it's kind of slow to start up, kind of like this. But I can't really tell that much difference between this starting on the Raspberry Pi and on like a MacBook Pro with 16 gigabytes of memory. So I mean, there's a little delay, but like I said, it's not much more than I usually see, so that's not too bad. So I may get around and play with some of these other IDEs. I think this one's, yeah, it's made by Oracle, or supported by Oracle. But I mean, yeah, these pop right up. So yeah, so this is great. It's if you already have a Raspberry Pi and you maybe have an older one and have thought about upgrading, I would definitely look into the Raspberry Pi 3. It's the same price as it's always been. It's $35. I had to wait maybe 2 weeks between the time I ordered it and it arrived. They were out of stock when I ordered it, but it wasn't that bad. It was about $8 shipping. And what else? Yeah, I highly recommend it. If you're watching this video and you've never had a Raspberry Pi and you've heard about them, you've thought about getting one, I mean, now is a great time, I think, to jump in, get a Raspberry Pi 3, learn Linux, learn programming. Anyway, this was just a short review of the Raspberry Pi 3. Thanks for watching the video.